I'm going to keep admitting people, but I am going to go ahead and get started. And first of all, thank you to those of you who are with me again and have been part of several things that we're doing. If you have questions throughout, please pop them into the chat. While I'm sharing my screen, if you can use the official raise hand feature, I can see that. I just can't see you physically waving your hand when I'm sharing my screen, but I will stop and see you all again throughout and have a chance to answer questions as we go. So we're going to start by sharing our screen here. So we are defending democracy section is, we talk about empowering voters and defending democracy, and little did we realize what defending democracy was going to mean, right, for us. It is, we have some new challenges, but that's nothing new for the league. So we're going to tell you a little bit about what's going on, how you can be involved. So today, first of all, I just want to remind you in terms of our August Academy. I know that there's several of you on this Zoom webinar today who are very seasoned folks, and I appreciate you coming on for the refresher, right? Like any good profession, things change and there's new things to learn. And for those of you who are new to this, and if it feels overwhelming, know that you're in good company with great people, and we are here to support you. Okay. So today we're going to talk about a few things. This is sort of our overview. We're going to talk about We Choose Us, which is a new sort of policy campaign to build a multiracial democracy. It's really exciting when we talk about it for us, because it really is intentionally giving us a wonderful space to network with lots of partners that we do work with and care about, but it's putting us literally on the same page together on a lot of issues. So we'll be talking more about that. We'll also be talking about Elections 411, our new webpage about how our elections work, why we know they're fair and accurate. We're going to talk about our new County Observer Corps to build on our lobby and Observer Corps. A little bit about the issue coalitions we have happening and how we organize all this work through our monthly APAT calls. So that's kind of the basics of what we're going to talk about today. But first of all, I wanted to also make sure that we formally welcome Sam Strukins. If you have not seen Sam yet, Sam is on the call. Okay, wave Sam if people can see you. They may not see you because I'm sharing my screen, but you'll see Sam. He'll be talking here today. But Sam is stepped into the role that Nick Harper used to have and has been just literally on the road since he began. Sam lives in Winona, and he's about to get his master's in advocacy and political leadership from Metro State. And he was an intern with us, and he is at the heart of it an organizer, which is really what we needed, someone who can go out into the community. And that's what we've done. These pictures here are actually of us doing voter registration at the Minnesota Aurora, first pre-professional women's soccer team in Minnesota. At their championship games, we were given an opportunity for free to go watch great soccer at the Vikings practice stadium and register and engage voters, which was great. And that's Sam's back there with the t-shirt from We Choose Us, a movement for multiracial democracy. So we got to participate, and Sam actually went to Duluth and helped kick off our role in We Choose Us as well. So we're real excited about having Sam. So yay, Sam. You'll see and hear more from Sam as we go along. But we want to start out today a little bit with explaining this new initiative, We Choose Us. And I wanted to show you a quick little video which features two of our fabulous league members in Duluth, Gay Traxel and Sally Munger. So I'm going to show this little video that tells you a little bit about what is going on with We Choose Us.
I'm Sally.
I'm Gay.
My name is Kimberly Jones.
My name is Luke.
I'm Malia Haugen Aaron.
I'm Celine.
Hi, I'm Sophia.
My name is Fatima Jama.
My name is Fatima Yukash.
When we saw all the pollution that was on this beautiful lakeshore,
When I saw the amount of police violence in my community,
When I saw skyrocketing rents here at St. Paul,
when I seen our streets are not being repaired,
When we saw the overcrowding in the schools,
When I saw that factory farms were threatening our water, our environment, and our local economy,
I knew it was time to take action, and we knew we couldn't do it alone.
I organized with my community
to voice our concerns at public meetings, write letters to the editor, and participate in rallies and events.
To pass the school referendum, which allowed us to get a new extension to the high school and a new intermediate school.
to campaign for a new Department of Public Safety.
to pass rent stabilization.
To get an ordinance passed by the city council.
You fix it all.
Very smooth also.
Some wealthy corporations and a handful of politicians in their pockets
Fan the flames of division.
In order to profit off our struggles.
But there's one thing we have that they don't.
Each other.
And it's time that we have democracy that doesn't just put people in power,
But puts power in the hands of the people.
That's why my community is getting to work.
And putting democracy in action.
And that's why we choose us.
Isn't that fun? So Sam, I'm wondering if you want to come in here and talk a little bit about what it is We Choose Us and talk a little bit about some of the experiences we've had so far.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle, for the welcome. And hopefully I can learn some of everyone's names to be able to get to know you better and hopefully travel to your city as well. Just good that we can all be together. And with We Choose Us, we're really bringing together the other organizations working on democracy in Minnesota. So we're, for example, Isaiah, the unions, so like Asks Me or SEIU, and then other grassroots organizations like the Land Stewardship Project. So these organizations kind of come together based off of a shared concern of building this multiracial democracy. So we all have a stake in this campaign, and that's really important to remember because when we show up and like tell our story as to why it's important to us to advance, not only continue to have the highest voter turnout, but they say to include everyone who's been left out and to allow them to serve in positions of power and challenge these kind of the elites and the corporations who have profited, like they said, off of our divisions. So is really important to understand all of that. It's a lot to think about. You hear those terms, but if you go to a democracy summit, then they explain how if we actually come together in this coalition by telling each of our own stories, we can work with the League to protect democracy, or we can work with the Land Stewardship Project to organize against factory farms, but it's all part of the shared concern, and we're all fighting the same battle against a similar kind of enemy that's trying to pit us against each other. So the important thing is to remember is this includes everyone. It's also nonpartisan. It's focused on the issues of importance to each of us. So what are the issues that would make you show up for building this democracy where we can all achieve the future that we envision, and to clean up Lake Superior or whatever it is. So right now the summits and the launch parties are to build out, to hear these stories where they're going to bring together everyone in December and write down what is it that we need in 2023 at the legislature. So they're going to put this together based off of all the conversations, all the people involved in this movement, and work on that in 2023. So we'll be a big part of that, and that'll only be to expand the ability so that democracy can include everyone and not any specific. We can still advocate for our issues, but this will just strengthen it.
Thanks, Sam. And so I think what Sam said too, in the role we play, is this notion of everyone working together, that issues are still so important to, I mean, the reason people show up to vote, right, is because they care about something. And people who don't vote feel somehow disenfranchised from the process. Usually the issues aren't there for them. They don't understand who the candidates are. They don't know how to vote. So those are all layers that we as League have worked on throughout the years. But what we're excited about is how that translates into action during the session. Having a shared policy strategy, working on bills. For us, it's always hard. We don't have big lobbyists to go in and do big stuff, right? We are counting on the grassroots and wonderful position nature of our local leagues to be influencers. And so our role, one of the things we can really bring to this team is all of you, and being able to better connect all of you to the legislators. We're going to have a whole new group of 201 people January 3rd. And if we're able to build better bridges with them, we'll all be more successful. So more to come, but we wanted to kind of kick this off. And I think what I'm excited about too is that it's often difficult to coordinate, right, with all these great partners. And so this is another group that is really leading the coordination. So it's not all on us to put all this together. So that's great. So I wanted to also talk a little bit about the other big thing we're doing with regards to defending our democracy, which is fighting the misinformation that's occurring. Obviously, this is a big issue for us. And we have started a new website, our elections, our new web page on our website, which is Elections 411. And we're very excited to have launched this. It really is the result of a webinar we did after the 2020 elections with 8 different election officials and election judges across the state and the Secretary of State's office. And from that, we really learned there are so many safeguards in place, right? And the only real way, as I say it, I wonder if I say it in my little spiel here, but my little metaphor to this has been and remains that the best way to fight weeds is to have good soil, right? As a gardener, what we need to do is continue to feed good information into the atmosphere here to combat a lot of the misinformation that is being brought up, especially in our counties and with our election officials. So we'll talk a little bit about the organized effort, but on the website, I really want to encourage all of you in your local leagues to think about this webpage and really hold it up. What we've done is put a lot of information here that helps you with program building and water cooler conversations when people are like, well, I don't understand why this or that. So we have, there's about 8 sections on here. And we have voter registration on all of our sections. We have a little section, and then we have a few little tidbits, right, that just remind you of why we know our elections are fair and accurate. We talk about like voting in person. Public accuracy tests are conducted on all the ballot machine tabulators. Our ballot integrity is ensured via daily 3-step bipartisan process, etc. So we have all these little great one-liners, but we also have learn more. Under all of these sections, you can go in and learn more. And for example, this one is on voting by mail absentee. There are so many myths out there about how it works. And we have things like in this one, we have a video from Anoka County elections that went behind the scenes and showed how a ballot board actually works. So we have great things like the safeguards. What are the safeguards? For example, an individual, and people say people can stuff ballots into a box. It's like, no, the individualized and unique barcode attached to the voter and their ballot ensures that each voter is only sent materials tied to them. I mean, so we really have good factual information embedded So good stuff also for your newsletters. I really want to encourage folks to help elevate this site as a great way for information. We also try to tie to things like this AP News article, other sources of information along the political spectrum that continue to combat the misinformation. So you'll see some more of that as we go along.
Oh, you know, I probably did. I've been busy since I've been home. I'm actually on this webinar right now.
If somebody not muted, I have to figure out.
Yeah, so
I'm trying to
okay.
figure. Hello, everybody. Figure out how to mute everybody here
Oh, that's right.
when I'm on
Yep.
my screen. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to mute somebody, but I can't really do that without opening up my whole screen. So we'll keep going, hopefully. All right, so also on elections vote 411, we have lots of great information, lots of things to dig into. We also have this election safeguards flyer, and this one is just a one pager where you can print this out. You can have this available.
Yeah.
It is a reprint from a, let's see, sorry, here we go. It's a reprint from a commentary that I wrote. And so it has all these little safeguards in there as well from the Minnesota Reformer. So this is something you could print out and have available as well if you need something for, you know, just what you're, the things you're looking at here. Okay, I'm trying to see if all our folks are muted. I feel like everybody
I
is.
believe Ginny Amundsen is.
Oh, is
not
it Ginny? Okay, I'm looking to see. Ginny, are you there? I'm trying to see.
Oh, can I here just a minute? Can you wait just a minute?
I can't see her on my screen. I'm gonna have to. Ginny, are you there? Can you hear us? Can you turn your mic off? I can't find everybody on my. Okay. All right. So let's go back here. So we've got that on there. We also have a link to the elections facts from the Secretary of State. So they have also done a really great job of countering fact and fiction and all kinds of information about how elections work. So a lot of these I love: facts, fiction, fact, fiction. So this is another great new resource for all of us here to be able to use. Then I wanted to point out to the replacing false claims. So multiple studies and reports from audits and recounts across the country from across political spectrum have demonstrated that our elections were fair and accurate. And so we have all of that here. I mean, I should say what we have are links to many different reports, including and articles, including things like, I especially like this one that came out this summer. This is the conservative case that Trump lost and Biden won the 2020 election. So lots of good information here. And they really document what they do in this piece is they talk about all the different studies and the claims that were done. They refute them. It's a really, I mean, it's a 72-page report. So what we've tried to do is when we appear before county commissions, we often really try to hold all of this information up to say, you know, the reality is, if you're wondering what the facts are, you've got all this information to use from across the political spectrum to be able to feel very clear that the 2020 elections were fair and accurate. So we've put that up as well. And then lastly, I want to go back here to our County Observer Corps. So where we're at with this, and I'm going to stop my share for a minute just so we can all talk with each other and talk about what this is. But we have been at 5 counties now, providing testimony and helping local leagues address misinformation that's really been brought on a really coordinated, orchestrated plan from the group Midwest Swamp Watch, and they have their subgroups, which are called the Minnesota Patriots groups. And Minnesota Patriots groups are people who live in local communities, but they are clearly using language from, a lot of them come forward from language from other states. They want the county commissions, the counties that they live in, to be able to do things that we can't even do in Minnesota, or we don't do because we have such a great system. But what's happened is they're very persistent, and they do a lot of public filing information and document requests, and they ultimately sow doubt. That is the goal, right? Is to sow doubt in our election system. And so the league has really played a very critical role, and we've talked to commissioners along the way to say, gosh, we're really glad the league showed up, because the bottom line is showing up is still perhaps the number one thing we can all do that isn't getting done. Most people don't show up at county board meetings. They're not showing up at county election hearings. And so what's happening is the group that's loudest is getting all the attention. And what we realized was that it is just time for us to use some of our best skills, which is our Observer Corps skills, to be able to train people to be in counties, how to watch county minutes, how to, know who the election official is, and be able to identify if there are problems in counties. We can help you at the state league. We have to have a wider net cast. And so we're looking to partner with our other groups, people like the AAUW and Minnesota Clean Elections and others, to be able to come up with hopefully getting at least one person or a set of people in all 87 counties over the next year. Ellen, you have your hand up.
I just wanted to say we do have an observer, but I also wanted to say that during redistricting, we made a big effort to be connected with our county board. We got the agendas and kind of knew the direction things were moving. And when we saw something was coming up, we actually sent a letter from our board saying, we understand you're doing blah, blah, blah. And we would like to remind you that, it was about hearings, and it was about, how they chose the districts. And actually, the county board secretary or the auditor who ended up doing the maps came around with a totally different map, that because we only had like 5 population that changed to 5 people, but we had big shifts within the county districts to make up that 5. And we ended up with, I think, an excellent map. So, it's a lot of work, and it does need some time, but I think you can make enormous change. And with voting, we're lucky to have the voting system we do, but we really only have it because one of the reasons is because we have divided government, and we can't count on that. So, make those connections early, and don't send a threatening letter. Just tell them you're watching, and it's really effective.
Thanks, Ellen. And I think that's it. I mean, if you think about it, sort of like any of us, if someone's in the room with us, you behave differently too, right? Somebody's watching. It's not to watch for a negative reason, but to just build those relationships. And I think what we know, I know Ralph drove out to be at our Sherburne County meeting, and what we found in most of these meetings is it's been really great for league to be what I would just say the adults in the room. In our Carver County meeting, we half the room was filled with people from the Minnesota Patriots group in that area. And when we talked about the January 6th hearings being a source of evidence for how we know that violence can come from election deniers, they just laughed. They literally laughed out loud. And, we just stood up to say, be able to say to the commissioners, I think you need to realize that, an event that injured or killed 154, law enforcement, people are sitting here laughing. That's how far apart we are. And so it's just really important for us to be there. And like Ellen said, we also are not, we're able to be a resource for them, just to remind them. Imagine they're all busy people and they need to get information like that. If we send information out that, aligns with what their election officials are saying, and we do all of this with the election officials to make sure that we're all, on that same page. It just makes a difference. So it's, I think, really changed, and not changed my mind, but it's given us a real lane. There's no one else doing this, really truly helping to ensure that county commissioners, who are the most important source for election policy and how it's carried out in our elections, it is the line of first defense and first offense in the state of Minnesota. I mean, certainly our state statute is as well, so that remains important. But our counties really still have so much they can do or not do. I mean, they can say no drop boxes, only one precinct, only this. I mean, there is so much power at the county level that it just makes sense for us to have a far more vibrant relationship and formal process with them. And I will say that in the 5 counties we've been a part of so far, the commissioners are coming along, but they are making little concessions. I mean, so we haven't seen any county just say, oh, these people are right, we're just gonna do whatever they say. But we do find they're throwing them little bones. And it's like, well, okay, we'll, what happened in Crow Wing County in Brainerd area is they said, well, instead of just auditing the number of precincts after an election, let's increase the number of hand count recounts that we do, which is completely, it's not terrible. But what it does is continue that feeling of sowing the doubt. If there's no problem, you have evidence of no problem, because in all of these counties, we bring with us the information from their audit. All elections are audited. A percent of all precincts are picked and re-hand counted after every election. No, we don't recount every single thing, just like in a financial audit, the county doesn't redo every single transaction, right? An audit is meant to be just that. But if we see almost all of our counties are at 100% accuracy. So when you look at the evidence and you see no problem, but you choose to make a change anyway, I mean, that's concerning to me. I think they're all kind of, well, we should sort of throw them a bone. So we want to also stand strong in saying, that isn't how we deal with bullies either. We don't want people to continue to sow doubt among voters that there is some problem that needs to be fixed. Not to say there aren't always maybe little things that change year to year, but so it's been a very interesting ride so far. And I'm going to share my screen again just to walk through some of those pieces. But again, which is our County Observer Corps. Here we are down here with our Carver County group. We had a great group there. And it's also just wonderful for members to be able to turn up and be a part of these events. But we also really hope to have, one thing we can be preparing for now is to get groups in your areas to be part of the post-election audit that will happen in your areas. So all of those are already scheduled. They're on the calendar. I should put the link in here. We'll have to send it out, but they're, I think the Secretary of State might have them all on their website, but or if you don't know, ask your local election official, but every county will have these audits. They will be open to the public. We'd love to get as many of league members and observers to those events as possible. So we're hoping then that we can, really start to recruit people. It doesn't need to necessarily take a lot of time, but it is a really great thing people can do virtually too, because now most all of this stuff is online as well. So lots there. Before we go on, any questions about the County Observer Corps, about Elections 411? Do people feel like, do any of you feel like that members will jump into doing that kind of Observer Corps? You know, again, it's really about reporting back, right? It's not your job to have to go out and advocate. I think it really is the job of the Observer Corps is to see what's going on and report back, and let us know, hey, we got a problem here, or we should be thanking this county commission, because that's another role we play, is saying thank you to those who make the decisions. Any thoughts or input on that from people? I see Wes saying in Anoka County, it's just the Human Services Committee that does this, usually to approve economic assistance bills. Oh, you're talking about consent agendas, yeah. So Ellen is talking too about if you get agendas from county board meetings, be sure to look at the consent agendas. And that's absolutely right. You know, a lot of things that people don't want to talk about can get buried in a 114-page consent agenda. So good to know that. And that's another thing we probably should track, is which counties, some counties are intentional about not putting certain things like elections in consent agenda, but so lots happening there. All right, I will keep on moving here. Okay. So what we will do again, of course, is our lobby and Observer Corps. And we really got a great jump start this last year on an improved model that really is about organizing. And it is our goal to really get 201 legislators, senators, and representatives paired with a league member. There's no reason out of 2,200 league members, we can't find 10% of our group to be willing to get to know some of the legislators out there, even those that aren't in their initial area. I mean, we certainly know that that legislators really respond to constituents. But if we can build some relationships even outside of constituent borders, our hope is that we can build greater interest among constituents in some of the areas. So we are going to try very hard this year to get that alignment. Lobby and Observer Corps was really fun this last year because, again, we met virtually on Mondays. People can pop in, they can follow bills. It's a great way for people who are interested in all kinds of issues to be able to watch issues, report on issues, and advocate, write testimony if you want to or not. We had about 30 people. We'd have about half of that available on most weekly calls. So another really great opportunity for member engagement. Our legislative priorities. So certainly all of the things we do come from our program for action. As you know, our program for action actually has been updated now to be 21 through 23 because we did have changes, some slight changes to our program after our convention. And so, or our council meeting, I should say. And so, but our program really gives us all these opportunities to act. And based on that, we then as a board look at what a lot of those priorities will be. There's only so much we can do. And so as a staff, we really worked on these issues. We worked on redistricting, of course, through Paul Huffman and the great work he has done as a volunteer and on our board. Restoring the vote for a felony reenfranchisement. Legislative transparency is an issue we continually look for along all issues. And of course, voter empowerment. But other issues come up like climate change. And I wanted to just call out that, you know, where we have issues like climate change, we really can't do all of that alone. And that's where we created a climate change task force. We now have over 200 people on that task force, probably 20 or so who log into our monthly meetings. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to act and defend our democracy along many lines in our program at the state level if people want to jump in to lobby and observer corps. So, but we do that through some of these other priorities. And so what we do then is really Vivian Latimer Tannehill from Woodbury Cottage Groves, when she was on the board, started our monthly meetings on the second Fridays at 2 o'clock. We have our advocacy and program action team. And it really has been great, where we really are, again, looking at program, reminding ourselves what are our issues, or do we need to change or update issues? Like in the case of our firearms studies, it was time to make some changes. What a gun was is not what a gun is today, right? So there's lots of things to look at, but we act on those. And so we really try to bring together people a monthly, like we bring our voter service chairs together, we're also bringing forward our action chairs to be able to better coordinate and learn each month. A reminder on advocacy that, again, as a local league, there's so many layers that you can advocate on your own. You don't need to work with the state league. I mean, city council, mayor, all of these things. When doing Vote 411, realize there's also county coroners running for office. Didn't realize you had a county coroner who ran for office. But anyway, there's lots of local advocacy. But again, any of the state advocacy, remember that if you're going to work on issues, you do want to come and work with us at the state to do that. And so again, the advocacy and program action team really helps to align our league work with the state and US. I mean, we're very fortunate to be part of a triumvirate organization like that, where we can all work together to get strategic alignment, and really encourage all of you who are presidents or other leaders in your local leagues to send someone to these meetings. Maybe you don't have an action chair or a program chair, but maybe there's somebody else in your league who just would be willing to, again, observe and be part of these groups to carry back to your league the work we're doing. And I think that's, a big piece for us too, is that thing here, providing a safe space to ask questions, clarify what we're doing, how do we do this together. I think communication is always our biggest challenge, but we now have these sort of 3 platforms. We have one for action chairs every month, voter service chairs every month, and presidents every month. So we really encourage folks to participate in all of those. So APAT again, the third Friday, sorry, I said the second, the third Friday of the month at 2 o'clock. Again, these are taped. So if you can't come at 2 o'clock on a Friday, which, isn't maybe always a great time, I think that came from kind of a doodle poll, that those were times not yet taken by everybody else's meetings. But we do tape them so that people can also, and we take notes so people can still stay connected that way. So the bottom line for us is we really need our members to choose us, right? Choose the league, join our efforts to both defend our democracy, but also to build that multiracial democracy that truly represents everyone. We are going to try hard to get 201 members to match 1-to-1 with our new Minnesota State Legislature. We really need 87 members to match to our county election officials. And we really hope that all our local leagues, 35, would match somebody to come and serve as action chairs. Our work is getting so much more vital, and our action is still very, very much education oriented. So I think a lot of people feel like they hear action and advocacy and feel like, well, I'm not a lobbyist. You don't need to be, but we need to be making connections, learning about our legislators, educating them on important things. We also need more people to represent us on important issue coalitions. We have the ERA, we have reproductive health. We have many different coalitions that really ask the league to be at the table, but we can't always be there. So there's no shortage of places where if you have members who don't feel engaged or plugged in, Sam wants to know about it. So do I, but Sam is really going to help as well. We really want to help plug people in to some critical things, and we can work with people on their time. If they've only got 2 hours a month, then we can find places for people. But those can be some very powerful conversations. So anyway, I'm going to stop to share and I think see if you have any questions, but I'm also really interested in some of your feedback in terms of being able to recruit more member engagement along some of these things. Do you think, are you excited about that? Do you have any ideas about that or suggestions, or how do you feel about our ability to build our front line of leaders in this way? So I'm wide open to questions, suggestions, ideas. If anyone wants to chime in, just Rita.
Mine is more of a question for Sam. I need to watch this again to look at that particular slide, but reaching out to other coalitions, I recall in 2018 with our Metro Mobility voter drive. I don't know if anybody was in on that. Was pretty deeply involved, and we worked with a variety of groups at that time. But how to keep that going? I really have I struggle with that because I work with membership in our league in trying to reach out a little bit more. And then I'd be curious to know from anyone here some of the best ways to communicate with your own league members. It seems like, you know, when you get over 100 type of thing, people seem to be inundated with emails. Anyway, I just would like some feedback from other people in that area. Sam, and then maybe anyone else. Thank you.
Great question, Rita.
Yeah, and that's really why I love We Choose Us, because, you know, we partner with everyone around the elections, but beyond that, we just kind of forget about being politically involved and our connections to other organizations that strengthen our democracy. So, I mean, I know they're not a part of the coalition, but I would invite them to your local league meetings and to serve as on our County Observer Corps, if they're interested, just to let them know about it. And even, you know, if you want us at the state league, if you have a contact point, you know, just email me them and we'll add them to our partner list. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think just continuing to, you know, invite them to your events that you have and in the same to their events, attends what they do as well.
And I would add, thanks, Sam. I would add too, is I still think picking up the phone is key. You know, I think it's still something we have to do is call people to ask them to play certain roles. And part of it is, you know, I think your point is well taken, Rita, that, and we've talked about that, where we have these sort of transactional opportunities for partners like the Metro Mobility and promotion, and then what? And so if you can, as soon as you have a relationship, I think you turn around and look for another, you know, and that's one of the things, like, it's like any relationship, you know, you go to dinner once, that was nice, twice, 3 times, hey, when are we going to go to dinner again, right? So I think about candidate forums. I mean, candidate forums are fabulous ways to invite people to be co-partners, co-sponsors, hosts, but also just simply Zoom webinars. I think doing hey, let's do a webinar together on whatever topic. There are so many areas. It doesn't take a lot of time for somebody to say, you know, Do Good Roseville or whatever, you know, the groups you work with, to say, hey, let's plan one thing we're going to do together this year. And so I think about a lot of organizing is, a lot of times we think we go from here to here, and really it's steps. What's the next? So we're done. We just had this great relationship with you. Now we want to turn around and say, okay, let's plan the next. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, and it could be a year from now, because let's do this again next year or whatever. But it's that intentional invitation to go to dinner again kind of idea. Think of how, and I think that is really important in relationship building. but I don't want to take away from others who have good ideas. So let's, Shannon and then Ellen.
My question was on the county board meetings. Now, people can go in person, but they can also watch them by Zoom. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, most of the counties are doing, a lot of counties, or I'd say most of them have Zoom sessions still. And every county, we also know some counties really do a great job of posting records, but we also know some of them don't. So it really will be kind of county specific, and that's why we can help with that. We also have, speaking of partnerships, we have a really great relationship, or I do, with Julie Ringgold, who is the executive director of the Minnesota Association of Counties. And so I'm able to go to her to say, hey, who can I talk to in this county about this? She's great at saying, oh, you need to talk to, I mean, again, that sort of old-fashioned Rolodex mentality is really what lobbying and organizing becomes about. So I think, Shannon, what I do know is most all of them have requirements to post things online. But we know from like working in Carver County, like when things are in play, the chair, for example, in Carver County made a last minute decision the night before the next hearing. So you can't always count on everything being visible online. So that's where the relationships become key. And one of the things we'll do training and orientation for everyone. But one of the things is your first relationship is with your county election official. And that is to get to know who they are. So an example, I'm just going to use the example in Carver County, Kendra Olson. So I was like, I can't stay in touch with like 7 people, but we can stay in touch with Kendra. Okay, Kendra, what's happening? Well, now Kendra, we've had a couple, she was able to call me and say, they just made a change for tomorrow. Here's the change. It wasn't posted because they didn't have to post it. So there are those kinds of things, but the good news is there's a point person, really. The election official is a great person. That's really who we're asking people to play, to build the relationship with. From there, if there are things that the county needs to do or know, we've really stepped in, and we're happy to do. We've got several, and we can help with the letters or all of those things. So that will all come out and the hope is people will jump in. There is some of this that just, there are people we're going to have to learn their county, right, this first year, and where they are they a sharer information or not? And it's great for us to know that and then not have to relive that, because another big piece about all of the work we're doing, I think, is the reporting and the documentation. I do feel like so often we're starting from scratch each year, and we really need to say, gosh, we learned this about, Crow Wing County. Now we need to keep that information. And that's what I'm excited about. The shift we're doing in some of our strategies is to do this kind of collaborative work, but also continue to document, continue to create a pathway for working within these counties and cities so that we're not always starting from scratch.
And I think that'll be very helpful because people don't necessarily want to show up. And as you mentioned before, there's a bunch of counties we don't have any people in that we know of. So
right,
if people want to go outside, one woman at our picnic said she thought it would be covered in the Twin Cities, and she thought she would be more helpful if she could pick counties outside of the metro area.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yes, which would be great. And all the election officials, I mean, I probably, of the 87 counties, I would say I at least know or can call on a first name basis, probably 18 or 19 of them. All of them have been fabulous. I mean, and they just are delighted that someone cares about who they are. I mean, at Sherburne County, a couple of the people who weren't the lead election officials, I mean, just sought us out and said, thank you so much for speaking up for us. They just were like, I mean, it was like, oh, because they're feeling put upon right now. And so we it is a really great thing that just by showing up or being present or talking to people, we can make a difference, which is really exciting. Thanks, Shannon. Ellen.
Well, one of the ways that we have been able to build our partnerships, we have several things. We do have a big event every year that we invite partners, and partners are nonprofits and universities and civic organizations and all those kinds of things, and present some information that's useful to them and have elected officials come. But we also offer our services, some of the things that we're really good at. We're willing to train other organizations to register voters. We had the school board reached out to us when there was a issue about selling the school building, and we had 300 people at a meeting, and we used our moderators to, conduct and control that meeting. So there's lots of things that all of us are good at and we're used to doing that we can offer to those partners and keep them involved. And I think sometimes people coalesce around issues, and so those partnerships will develop and then move away. But we try to communicate with our we send them our newsletters, we offer them our services. There are things that we can do that keep us keep people keep us top of mind with people. And then when we ask for help, they're there to work with us too.
Well, and I think Duluth is a great example of, the strategy you have of having an annual event every year with the same partners, right? So that is a nice thing to think about. If there's something you can do regularly with some partners, you just know you're going to work together, right? So it's sort of embedded in your fabric. But I think the bottom line for me about any of these things is just don't overthink it, and just go do, right? Like find one partner and hang out and figure it out. What can we do together? I would say that was kind of like sweet potato comfort pie. Okay. So Rose McGee, you've probably heard of Rose McGee, who is the Golden Valley League and has a wonderful nonprofit organization. And that's how she started her whole organization, was when they had the murder of the young man in Ferguson, Missouri, and the unrest there. She's like, what the heck can I do? I don't know. I'm going to bring pies. That's what we do in our African American tradition and culture, and brought pies because that's what she could do. It started this whole organization she has now of racial healing. And for me, it was the same thing. It's like, Rose, I really want to work with you. I don't know. Let's just do something. Okay, we have Juneteenth. Let's just go do Juneteenth together. So now we have a regular gig, right? For Juneteenth. I'm going to be there. I'm going to budget it. We're going to be together. And now we have a really, to me, working partnership, just because we said, let's go do this together. Let's hang out, see what it is. And it's not like, to me, it's very authentic and real. And it is not like you really can't have partners with, 20, 40 people at a time, right? So find one or two and make them stick. I think that is, that's what I would suggest to people. I mean, it's do one, make it stick, and then find another and make it stick. We're always going to have transactional partners, and there's opportunities that come along, like the Metro Mobility thing did for you, Rita. But I would say another one I will say that I'm proud of is for us, because we have the same issues. We work with all these people on all these issues, and then what, right? Everybody's got work to do. But where is there a mutual benefit? And so a really good partnership, it has to make sense, right, on both sides. And so I would say COPAL is an organization I talk about. They really serve a lot of the democracy needs around the Latino community. And we worked with them on redistricting. We did a lot of the physical mapping while they led their community through redistricting. And we were just there, or I should say Paul was just there to run the mapping software. But we reached out to them and have had relationships with them. And then we have our Vote 411. Well, our Vote 411 is fully bilingual. I mean, we've got at least 5 partners that work with Latinx populations, and we have a fully bilingual voter guide. So COPAL is like, hey, great, we'll help partner. We opened it up to partners. So they still have their own website where they are talking to their voters in ways they know their voters want to be seen and heard, and to get the information. But when they talk about what's on your ballot, they link to our Vote 411 because it is bilingual. So it's like a perfect relationship because it's not asking them or you, anyone, to change who you are. It's taking the things that are great about both of you and putting them together. And that's the sweet sauce of a great relationship, partnership. And so I hope that helps. There's some ideas there, not to say it isn't difficult. It's always difficult because there are so many issues. We all care about so many things, makes it challenging. Rita, yeah.
So then, Michelle, in terms of what I'm hearing you say, and Sam too, not to worry about, okay, they're not members of a league. Which
Right, no, absolutely not.
A league, you kind of commit to that nonpartisanship. And I know, but Roseville's been wonderful, to work with. But I did get some pushback in terms of, I think it was our members who said, not very nonpartisan regarding blah, 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 blah. Well, I would have just kind of overlooked that. But then, when it's brought up to you
yeah, well,
I had to address it.
I did at noon, I did a whole session on nonpartisanship today, right? So the short, because we have 3 minutes left, but here's my thing, right? Remember, nonpartisanship really is only about, like all of the partners we're talking about are all gonna almost all be nonprofits, 501c3 organizations, regardless whether the League of Women Voters are all supposed to be and need to be nonpartisan, meaning you do not endorse or support or oppose candidates or parties, but we all have issues we care about. And we can't help the fact that 70% of the GOP believes the election was fraud. It's not a partisan thing to say it's not fraud. There's no evidence of fraud. That is looked at, people will say, well, that's partisan. It is not a partisan statement to talk about facts, to state the issues. Now, picking partners it's always, so that's the easy way or short way of saying, I wouldn't, if you've got a good partner and they're a 501c3 and they're not endorsing candidates or parties, we do run into challenges sometimes with indivisible groups and women's march groups, because they were all really meant and formed around opposing candidates, opposing Trump, right? So those groups are tougher, but we still partner with them outside of the candidate season. When it's candidate season, again, that's the way to think about it. Between June and November, we really limit our partners. We want to be more careful about who our partners are, because we're running candidate forums and we're a trusted brand. But I would say, again, we want to look for that nonpartisanship, but it isn't the issues that define partisanship. That's the big thing. When people say, well, you're looking partisan, I'm sorry, election facts look partisan. I'm sorry, it looks partisan to talk about pro-choice and climate change. These are not, everything I said is not partisan. We can't help. We know what our issues are. We study our issues. We're proud of our issues. We'll advocate on our issues. We can't help what party picks the good issues of the League of Women Voters. We just can't. And so we don't want to get tripped up in that. I do think perception matters. There's no doubt about that. But part of that is to continue to remind people what it means to be nonpartisan. Nonpartisan only means that we don't tell people who to vote for. We don't endorse candidates, parties. We don't oppose them. We don't support them. But we are political. We are involved in issues. We care about issues. We advocate on issues. And that's our strength. So, there are times where perception matters. So we often sit out a lot of things that people ask us to do that are clearly all nonpartisan. So there was a Democracy Day at the Capitol this last spring that Fair Vote had, and Common Cause and Minnesota Clean Elections. But only people that were there were only, all the speakers were Democrats. And so we just said, right now we're in the we're advocating and we're having conversations with people across the spectrum. We're going to sit this one out because we have, our perception matters right now, and we're just kind of preaching to the choir. I often also will ask anybody who's doing things, are you inviting everyone? If there are groups that sometimes say, well, no, we're not inviting the Republicans, then we don't participate, because I do think everyone should be invited to things, whether they come or they don't. So, so there's, there are some, there's certainly things, and Rita, feel free at any time, or anyone call us, because there's a lot of gray areas in the world we live in. I get it. But I really don't want that to get in the way of really doing the good work we're doing on our issues. Okay, so defending democracy just got bigger for us, but we're doing it and we matter. Don't forget that. And we matter because we show up and we educate people. These are not hard things to do. So people, it's not like you have to stand on a street corner or that you have to be a policy expert. You can just be us and make a difference right now, which is a real powerful message to get out to our members. So thank you all for your fabulous work you're doing. Know that you can contact Sam and I at any time. And I hope to see a lot of you in our various observer corps as they start to take a life on. All right, take care, everyone. Go have dinner. Bye-bye.